Servus and welcome. This is the second part of the Schafkopf tutorial in English. So last time we have seen that Schafkopf is a tricks game. You have to play trick rounds to win the game. And what we have seen previously is that you need 4 players around a table. So this time we have 4 players here sitting around an imaginary table and the cards are already dealt out. The dealer this time was player in position 4, and remember, the dice here are just decorative to make it easier for you to understand and follow the order in which I'm explaining. So what do we want to tackle this time? It's about the game modes. Some might know game modes also as contracts from other games like bridge. However, I refer to it as game modes because I think it's more fitting in this context. So what is actually happening at Schafkopf? The dealer dealt out the cards and now every player has 8 cards in hand. So what the players now have to do is all players may have a look at their respective hand and evaluate their cards. And based on their evaluation, they have to decide that they want to play or they want to pass. That's the options they got. But what options do they actually have if they say they want to play? Well, there are 3 options that they have. It's the Rufspiel, the partners game I have referred to last time, the Wens, which is a 1 versus 3 others, but with limited trump cards, and the Solo, which is also a 1 versus 3 others with quite a lot of trump cards. I will explain the game modes with the respective cards in detail in another video for each of the game modes. So, these are the options that I can announce. However, if I decide to play, I have to keep these a secret first of all, because I have to give the option to the other players that they also could play or pass. So let's create some scenarios to get the clear picture when you're allowed to, first of all, announce your game mode and when you're allowed or not allowed to play your game mode. So, first of all, you're the position after the dealer here on position 4, and you're the first one to tackle the question, do you want to play or do you want to pass? If you want to play, you say, well, I want to play. Keep your game mode announcement a secret, please. It's not allowed to announce it yet. Our first scenario is that now each of the other players, player 2, 3 and 4, say they want to pass. Easy case, okay? So they all decided to pass. If that's the case, you are the only one which wanted to announce a game mode, and then you are free to announce your game mode of choice. So you can say, I want to play a partners game, I want to play events, I want to play a solo. That's the easy case. So let's make it a little more complex. Imagine you said on position 1 you want to play. Then this player on position 2 says, well, I want to play as well. However, they don't have the same options as you have with partners play, events or solo. They have a limited amount of options, which is this. The partners game gets cut out. Why is that the case? So, if a player after you wants to announce a game mode, it needs to be of a higher rank as yours. And you can see the rank here, it's just an imaginary rank with 1, 2, 3. But this is the rank of the modes we have now. So the partners game has the lowest rank with 1, the Vents has the 2nd rank and the Solo has the 3rd rank. And this player now has limited options. So they can say, I want to play as well. However, if they do so, they need to at least announce events or solo afterwards. Otherwise, they are not allowed to play it. But if they say they want to play as well, they still have to keep it a secret. So imagine the following. Player 1 says, I want to play. Don't announce your mode. Player 2 says, well, I want to play as well. They don't announce their mode either. And then player 3 and 4 still have the option to also say, well, I want to play as well or pass. And so is true for player 4 here. So what happens if both player 1 and 2 said, well, I want to play as well. So there are different cases depending on what the player on position 1 has in mind. If the player on position 1 had a partner's game in mind, so a game mode of rank 1, they say I need to pass because the game mode of the other player needs to be higher, as we know, because they can't announce a partner's game. So if it's a partner's game, then this player passes and this player announces the game which they had in mind, which is either events or solo. Free to do what they wanted. However, if the player on position 1 had events or solo in mind, then after player 3 and 4 passed, and this player said that he wants to play as well, they have to announce, well, I would like to play events, for example. So if this player had events in mind, then this player could also have had events in mind. It doesn't need to be a solo because, well, he had all the options here. But if it was events which he had in mind, then he needs to pass and let player in position 1 play out their game mode. On the other hand, if the player had a solo in mind and this player announced events, then he says, well, nice that you would like to have played as events. However, I have a solo and my game mode is higher. Then this player has to pass and then player 2 is allowed to announce the solo. Last case is if this player already had a solo in mind, then this player has to take back their announcement and this player is allowed to announce the game mode of solo, which is then played out. This is the options for 2 players which want to announce a game mode, and this is true for any combination. So it doesn't need to be 1 and 2, it could also be 1 and 3 or 1 and 4, or it could also be 2 and 3 or 2 and 4 or 3 and 4. These are all the combinations which are allowed to announce a game mode as 2 players. Next, let's have a look if 3 players would like to announce a game mode. So we again start with option that player 1 wants to announce a game mode and he or she says they want to play. Now, as we have seen previously, if the player on position 2, 3 or 4 also wants to play, their options are limited. And now, if any of the other players on position 3 or 4 wants to announce a game mode, then the options are even more limited, because their game mode announcement needs to surpass the game mode announcement of the secondary player. And the game mode announcement of the secondary player is already limited to just 2 options, which is events or solo. So keep that in mind. The only option of this player is to play a solo. And now you can again go through the order which we have done with 2 players. So depending on what kind of game mode the first player wants to announce, if it's a partner's game and any of the other wants to play as well, and there's 2 like here which want to play as well, then this player can only play if he or she has a solo. Otherwise, we know there is a solo here, player 3, because this is the only allowed game mode which they have remaining. And thus, this player has to pass unless he or she has a solo. And the same is true for player 2, because he or she also knows that player 3 must play a solo. So if this player doesn't decide to play a solo, they also have to pass and let player 3 announce the game mode of their respective solo. And to be fair, it could also happen that all 4 players would like to announce a game mode, but first of all, this barely happens. And as you can see, well, there's only 3 game modes. Well, I kind of withheld information for you. There are further game modes, but they are not relevant. There's a game mode which is called a 2, and this game mode is about not only announcing a high game mode like a solo, but it's about announcing a game mode which is like a solo or events, and you also say you want to make each and every trick. So this would be even higher than the solo. However, this is not really necessary for starters. So keep it in mind that it exists, but it's not really necessary. It's also quite rare that even 3 players want to announce a game mode. Quite often it's just about like this, that there's one player who wants to announce his or her game mode, and this is just how it goes. Okay, but we have missed one case. Not only the 4 players game mode, which is rather rare and doesn't really happen. There's one case where all the players just say, well, I want to pass. What happens then? So player 1 passes, player 2 passes, player 3 passes, and the dealer passes as well. Well, if this is the case, then all the cards get discarded in the center from all players, like this. And then the player, which was the first one after the dealer, so dealer was here at position 4, now is the one who's becoming the new dealer. And we have kind of position swap. So this one goes here, this one goes here, this here, and this here. And I'm the new dealer, shuffling the cards. This player's cutting the deck. And then we hand out the cards as well for each player until they have 8, like this. And we start all over again with this player getting the option to either play or pass. Well, I know that game mode announcement is quite complicated in Schafkopf, and this is why I dedicated an entire video to this topic, because you need to understand that there are these 3 game modes. They do have a different rank, and that if you want to announce a game mode, whilst another player already had a game mode in mind, your options get limited the more players decide to announce a game mode. So if you have any questions about the game mode announcement, or the game modes on themselves, or about Schafkopf in general, please leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer it to my best.